Hello, hello, hello. This is Tamika Seaton, President and CEO of Grow Your Nonprofit, where we help startups, small and stagnant nonprofits grow through fundraising strategies, strategic planning, and so much more. Guys, today you're in for a treat. I have my special guest here, Renee. She will share with you all about her background, experience, and guess what? She's looking to get involved and volunteer right here in the beautiful Southwest Florida. Whoever is so lucky to have her as a volunteer, you just don't know. You're in for a treat. So before we get started, I'd like to thank the sponsors of my podcast. Hodges University with a campus in Fort Myers. Stay near, go far. They change lives for the better. Trinity Life Foundation Naples, helping at-risk youth through their enrichment program. AVID, that stands for the Associations of Haitians Living Abroad. They just opened an amazing support center where they help people with immigration support, rental assistance, and so much more. Last but not least, Vaxtruth. They received a grant from the CDC to raise awareness of COVID-19 and vaccine resources in the Black and Brown communities. So without further ado, Renee, how are you doing, Renee?
I am doing great, Tamika. Thank you so much for having me.
And would you tell our audience your full name and what you do for a living?
Well, my name is Renee Freeman. I am a corporate recruiter for an insurance company here in the Southwest Florida area. I have been a recruiter actually for over 25 years. I'm going to say I'm a native of Kansas for the fact that we lived there for over 30 years.
Oh,
However,
wow.
I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago.
Okay, south side of Chicago. Shout out. Yes. So we talked about volunteerism in the nonprofit world. Tell me about your first volunteer experience and how that came about.
I would say the very first one that I can think back would be more of a corporate setting. It was junior achievement.
Okay.
Exactly. And I absolutely enjoyed going into the classrooms, interacting and working with the young people and teaching them simple things in life that I hope had an impact in some way. And so that would be the first. But living in Kansas, I began to do, additional things. Like, for example, I was part of the board with the Johnson County NAACP, and I was on their Economic Development Board. And there I was teaching individuals on how to find jobs, how to interview, how to do their resumes, how to search, and definitely did that for a little while. And then on top of that, I also work with the Dress for Success of Kansas City. And so again, utilizing those recruitment skills that I have, where I was once again sharing how to dress for a job, how to do your research, how to interview, those things that I just love and have such a great passion for. And so I was able to kind of utilize that throughout,
Let me let you in on a little secret. So Grow Your Nonprofit is a DBA, but my LLC is Naples Image Consultants. And Naples Image Consultants started in 2013 while I was working and building my career. And I did image consulting for people, specifically business people who had no interest in going to the store and shopping for themselves. So I would help them like on the weekends with dressing and wardrobe auditing and all that other stuff. So when I decided to be more intentional with my business, specifically for nonprofits 4 years ago, I said, why start over? I can just have a DBA and keep the same. Because when you think about it, image is across the board, whether personally, professionally, with your business. It's all image, as you described with your resume. What does that look like? That's image. The way you dress, that's image.
Yes.
How you present yourself, how you speak, that's all image.
It is. It's your first representation when you walk into a room.
Right.
Believe it or not, we today, how you dress says a lot about you. And it's not about brands or anything like that, but, our professional has its own dress, casual has its own, dress and so on. So totally agree with you on that.
And, that's very important, especially with the new generation. It tends to be, especially here in Southwest Florida, everyone tends to be a little bit more casual. And I remember when I worked at in one particular governmental agency, my manager told me that I didn't need to dress up every day, only when we went out to meetings. And I couldn't do it because I'm from Los Angeles, so I couldn't do it. When you went to work, you dressed up. That was what I was accustomed to. And so I couldn't do it.
Right. Totally agree. So, but yes, that's just a little bit of what I've done. And having, relocated to this area, I immediately start looking for opportunities. Unfortunately, I have yet to find that opportunity. And I'm going to blame a little bit on the pandemic, of course, because some of those calls that took place prior to that just did not manifest.
Right.
And then the pandemic hit and all of that. So here I am again saying to myself, I've got to do something.
Yeah.
It's one thing where, you have something to give and I feel guilty if I'm not sharing whatever that gift is.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, the resume will get you the interview, but it's the interview that will get you the job. And so I definitely have some skill sets that I can share with individuals on how to research and be better prepared. And, that's just something I've done throughout my career.
So two things I want to point out, and then a third thing: getting that resume looked at, getting that interview, and getting that job. How about keeping that job once you get that job? Because that's a whole nother dynamic.
Yes.
Because you get the job, but I think the job is 20%, is really 80% of relationships, and if you could fit into the culture. So if you can't fit into the culture and figure that out, you won't be there very long.
That is true.
And I had to figure that out because I used to think, okay, I have my education, now I can go in, and I would look at people around me who didn't have the education, but they had the relationships with people in a room who would advocate for them, and they would get promoted.
Right.
They would go to lunch with the boss. And the way I was taught growing up culturally, basically you go to work, you keep your head down, and you go home. No, you need to go to happy hour. You need to go to lunch.
Absolutely.
You need to participate in the birthdays. So I know that this podcast is not about that, but I think it's still important for people to understand the importance of corporate culture.
Yes.
And I'm not saying compromise who you are to fit in, but you have to understand the dynamics and manage it.
Most definitely, and you are on point. One of the things I tell individuals about culture, know the culture of that organization. And how do you do that? You ask questions.
What kind of questions?
You ask them about the culture, but it's always good to at least sit with someone who's currently working there.
Okay.
Maybe you'll get a chance to do a little bit of a job shadowing type situation.
They'll let you do that?
Depends, right? The other thing is when you're doing the research on the company, you can figure it out. Read the reviews, read what is being said about the organization. Are they an organization that gives back to the community? How much of that are they really doing? What are they committed to? What's their mission statement? Those are the things you need to be doing prior to. And then when you're in the interview process, sometimes you can get a good feel. Of where this is going. And I can give you a personal experience of my own. I interviewed for a job once, and guys, they brought me in 6 times. Is that not insane?
That's insane.
It is insane. It was a high-level position. It was a major brand in the Kansas City area. But what's interesting is when they called me the last time, I told them I wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
Asked them why they wanted me to come back. And so you started to kind of read between the lines what was happening here. So much so my friends were asking me, Renee, if they offer you this job, are you really going to take this job? And they were basically saying, you probably don't want to do this because of the culture. It was total red flags.
Right.
But, I let self get in the way, and I got to that point. I dare them not offer me this job. Not only did I check all the boxes, I'm bringing more than what they're asking for. So yes, they offered me the job. That was a year of just total,
hockey stick.
Yes, didn't want to say it, but it's the truth. I knew it, but I took it anyway.
Interesting.
Lesson learned. Not every job is for you.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, when you're interviewing them.
Yes.
Just like they're interviewing you.
Mm-hmm.
You make sure this is where you can see yourself. You make sure that, yes, you can bring skill sets, but what can they do for you as well? And so Again, you talked about the culture. Yes, you need to engage. You need to identify who's that person that can help you get to the next level, and you befriend and you learn from them. Seek a mentor. Mentors are everything, because those are the people who would advocate for you.
Right.
My son, he's working for a company now, and he's progressed since he's been here in a very short period of time. Wow. But you have to say there are people who saw something in him that helped advocate for him. And it wasn't that they knew he could do the job. But that's what do not be an island on your own.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's absolutely correct. Very good advice. Now, you mentioned looking at the company's culture, mission statement, and their involvement in the community. What type of involvement some of the employers you work with, they had in the community or encouraged their staff to get involved in?
Well, perfect example. One would be, maybe they have adopted a particular school, in the area. I worked for a company here in the Southwest Florida area where it was a school, Dunbar, and they had an internship program for their technology department. I thought it was amazing. And it wasn't so much that they advocated this department, these young people, oh my gosh, the skills that they had and what Dunbar was doing for them in their technology. And so they were able to do an internship in high school.
Oh, wow.
So imagine giving young people an opportunity to come to corporate America, because corporate is so different than retail.
Yes.
And just giving them a little taste of what their future could look like if they were to work for, a major company or any company. But that's a perfect example. They invested in those young people at that high school who actually had great skills that they can bring to their organization.
Right.
So recognizing that, the United Ways or even the junior achievement, as I talked about earlier, being able to pick the school I wanted to go to. So I could share life experiences with them to let them know that this is where you're at today, but look where I'm at today. That could be you. I was once you.
Yes.
On the south side of Chicago. And, I tell my nieces, nephews all the time, we all have the same choices.
It's all about choices.
It's all about choices.
Yes.
But are you willing to make the sacrifice?
Are you willing to make the sacrifice? Before we started recording this podcast, you mentioned that you're the only one in your family with a college degree.
Yeah.
So am I. There's 7 of us. There's 5 girls and 2 boys. Choices. I always talk about choices because what happened was once I started becoming successful, some of my siblings started to ask me for money, and I felt guilty because I had made it, and I would give. And once I started saying no, then I was this bad person. So then I had to learn that I had to cut these people off because I made the sacrifice to go to college. I made the sacrifice to do what I had to do to get where I'm at today. And we all had the same start.
Same choices. We did.
Choices.
We did. And so, lucky me that, some of my siblings, maybe they did not go to college, but some of them are very successful, still the same, but I'm with you.
Right.
Got the master's degree, and again, had to pay for that. It took years.
Yes.
As an adult, I was still paying for schooling, But like you, I had to sit back and say, you can't ride my coattail.
Yes.
Because all you had to do is make the decision. And I even tell them today, it's still not too late.
It's not. It's not too late. As long as you are above ground, you still can make it for yourself.
And it's not even always about just going to college. It's just that if you're going to choose a profession or whatever that is, are you willing to do what it takes to continue to grow within it? And so, but yeah, I totally agree with you on that. But again, for me, as I look for an opportunity to pour into someone, I would love for it to be individuals that are a lot like myself. I love seeing the young person and just seeing something in them that I can say or do something that will help them realize they have a choice.
Yes, that's very important. Before we wrap up, if a nonprofit wanted to say, partner with a for-profit business, how would they go about doing that?
Well, from a corporate standpoint, they definitely have a department. I would normally start with HR. That would be the first place.
And what would they say? Hello, my name is Tamika, and I'm with XYZ Nonprofit. We thought your company would be a great match. We looked at your mission statement. Is there an opportunity for us to meet with you and further explore this?
And that's just it. Stress the meeting. And learn
get that appointment.
Sometimes you think you have what they need. You need to find out what is their need.
Okay. And
to make sure that what you have to give is something that they can utilize. And I think having that meeting, can we come in and have a conversation with you? But do your homework first about the organization as a whole, and tell them how they could benefit.
How could they benefit? How could an organization benefit from partnering with a nonprofit?
Well, I mean, their employees will benefit. For me, and here's a perfect example. Like the company that I currently work with, they provide, for example, mental health. It's something that's really big right now, and rightfully so. And so they are providing a subscription to, this vendor that we can tap into. Well, that vendor had to come to them and say, hey, mental health is an issue right now. Here's what we can provide your employees. And for me as an employee, it makes me feel like they care. And so that would be the one thing. But again, doing the homework, making sure what you have is something that you think they can truly benefit from, and stress to them why they need to meet with you versus just, can I meet with you?
Right. That's very important. Very good, very good. So being that you're currently seeking to get involved as a volunteer with nonprofits, tell our audience what you're looking for, and perhaps they can reach out to you for an interview, because like you said, we're interviewing each other.
That is true. Well, again, whomever I decide to work with, I want to make sure that what I am giving is going to be impactful in some way. And so what I gravitate to, I guess you can say, is I love working with young people, those who are just kind of in that high school age or older, that has a background very similar to mine. That young girl, south side of Chicago. I grew up in a 2-parent household, but at the end of the day, we struggled like everybody else, and what made me who I am today is that teacher that, called me a lady several times, that made me want to be a lady. Those individuals that saw something in me that they had to help me see that same thing in me. And so I want to be that person. So I don't want to say it has to be a young lady, but I think that would be best. Those organizations that have young women that need to be encouraged, that need to be, you just need to kind of push them along a little bit. And again, I want them to see themselves in me so they can see what their future really truly could look like if they just did the work.
I actually, as you said that, a lot of different nonprofit organizations I had in mind that I'll refer you to that may be a good fit.
Yes.
In addition to that, there's an event that I'll be attending, I believe maybe next week, and I'll tell you about that. Perhaps you can attend with me. It'll be a lot of powerful women in the room who are specifically involved in nonprofit.
Yes.
So that would be really great. So how can someone reach you on LinkedIn or whatever information you like to give? It'll appear on the screen.
Awesome. Yeah, you definitely can reach me at LinkedIn. It's Renee Freeman. Not too hard to find. I can even, share my phone number with you as well. If you tap in with Tamika, I'll make sure that she can get us both connected. But I would love to hear from you. I'm really at that point and desperate to find something, because I sit around often saying I'm too blessed not to be giving back. I grew up in a household. My dad was an advocate for our community, and he's no longer with us. But to see me doing nothing, no, I am ready to help.
Well, thank you for your heart and your kindness and willingness to give back and pour into someone else. That means a lot, because I know for me, whenever I've given back and been selfless, God provides so much. He blesses you tenfold. Guys, if you give, there's nothing wrong with it. It's nothing wrong with giving because you get so much more than you can handle. It's a blessing.
It is.
It's a blessing. So again, Renee, thank you so much. Guys, we did something a little different today. We had a volunteer who's actually seeking to get involved with a nonprofit. I hope that you learned something about Renee, and as well as what volunteers are looking for when they're getting involved in a nonprofit. They're looking at you as if you're a great match. What is your mission statement? Are you organized? Once someone gets involved in your organization, can you keep them engaged, or do you have an orientation process? Because the last thing you want to do is attract a top tier volunteer and not be able to retain them because you yourself is not organized. So guys, this is Tamika with Grow Your Nonprofit. I'm signing off, and stay tuned for more Grow Your Nonprofit podcast episodes.
Thank you.